Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. I'm Larry Sash. Oh, today we have a great show for you. But before we do that, what I'd like to do is thank our sponsors, the people who are paying the bills. First, there's Ed Flanagan. Ed, say hello to the folks. And Ed is representative ERA Group, expense reduction analyst. Listen, you work so hard for that money that you bring in every day. If you're spending money on goods and services, you have to make sure you're being charged the right amount. If you have any doubts, call Ed Flanagan and Expense Reduction Group. Their people will crawl through your invoices and find those extra cents and dollars that disappeared into the vacuum of business. Second is looking to bring your restaurant concept to Miami's most iconic waterfront destination. Bayside Marketplace welcomes 25 million visitors a year. Right next to the cruise port, arena, and booming downtown. Your dream location is waiting. Discover more at thebaysidemarketplace.com. Back to our show. So, spotlight on Miami. You know, we've been talking about what Miami was back in the 50s and 60s, but today it is not the retirement place for old Jewish couple. Miami is a booming metropolis that has so much to offer. But before we go into the show, let's introduce our panel. Dewey, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Dewey Lasasso. I'm the corporate executive chef with Bill Hansen Catering. I've been in Miami since 83. Actually, 82. I did my externship in the Culinary Institute of America. I've been cooking in restaurants since I'm 13 years old. I was a dishwasher in the Jersey Shore. They got the machine after I left. I remember that day. And from then on, I've been in Florida for quite a while.
Okay. Sunny, say hello to the people.
Hi, I'm Sunny Fraser. I'm a wine, spirits, and food consultant, contributing co-host on the Food News and Views podcast, and also a wine competition judge. I used to actually I'm a former winery owner as well, and I've been in Miami since 1988.
Okay. Lynn.
Good morning. Well, I'm Lynn Farmer. I have been a journalist. I was restaurant critic for the Miami Herald, the Fort Lauderdale Sentinel, editor of a wine magazine. I've pretty much done anything that could put a glass into my hand. I got here in South Florida about the same time Sunny did, but we didn't know each other then. Dewey Lasasso was actually my first friend in Miami, and so is my longest friend here as well. We go way back and crazy stories to tell there. So these days, I direct a big wine festival for United Way of Miami. And just this very morning, Larry launched a podcast called Postcards in a Glass.
Oh, fantastic. And Fred.
Good morning. I'm Fred Clashman. I'm the editor and publisher of Total Food Service, and we appreciate everybody joining us this morning.
Okay, and I'm Larry Sashin once again, and I do want to welcome one special guest, Chris Zoller, friend of mine since way back, and actually the person who introduced me to everyone here. So thanks for coming, Chris. We appreciate you. And if you have anything to say, audience, you know, you're always welcome to open your mouths and join it. Back to our conversation. Spotlight on Miami. Let's talk about the food scene, not the food scene that I remember my grandfather talking about in the 50s and 60s when he all used to talk about is Wolfie's Rascal House and the giant corned beef sandwich. I'd say things have changed a bit since then. What do you think, Dewey?
I mean, you know, I think it's a little bit of night and day from the 80s to now. I think it was harder to find restaurants in the 80s and 90s, where now there's an influx all over the place of younger chefs doing great work. What is Miami? Miami is not just South Beach. You know, I think people think that nationally. I think, you know, there's so much going on in the Gables, out in Homestead, North Miami, South Miami, Kendall area, and also utilizing the farmers in the neighborhood. You know, I think that's been a pretty interesting turn of events, because the farmers really, you had to go out there to get things in the 80s. Now you can source Florida products throughout the whole state. So that's been a big impact on the restaurant scene as well.
I think what's really cool, Dewey, is that, you know, when this is a huge farming agricultural community and always has been, but much of it has been shipped out. But now that it's almost as if Miami has discovered we have gardens in our backyard. So two of our top chefs here, in fact, the top chef, you know, Jeremy Ford, who was season 13 top chef, has just started his own farm. So, and then Niven Patel, who has the best Indian restaurant in Florida, I think, has Rancho Patel, 2 acres in his backyard where he's growing all the vegetables for use in all of his restaurants. So I think you're really onto something there, Dewey, that it's more of a discovery, not a new thing, but we just finally found that it's actually here.
So let me break in for a second. So you're mentioning farm to table. What differentiates farm to table in Miami than from New York? What vegetables are they cooking in Miami that makes you special and different?
First, the mango. We're using mangoes a lot, but we're also using so many tropical fruits here. And I'm sure Dewey can answer more more because he's doing this every day. But there's so many, you've got papaya, you've got mango, you've got all kinds of things that that we're growing here that they, are using that are very different from other places. But, Dewey's right in the fact that Miami didn't really go to its farmers before, and everybody's thinking farm to table. That was more of a California concept, but it should have been a Florida concept all along because we have so much agriculture here.
But Dewey, you remember when you and I met, you had an herb garden on top of your restaurant at the Foundlings Club.
Right.
And that was actually a bizarre marketing concept because most of your customers didn't know about anything like that. The fact that you were giving them fresh herbs, not something out of a plastic box, was pretty amazing.
And then when I worked for Mitchell Wolfson Jr. from 86 to 97, he owned a few blocks of property by the Bacardi building off of Biscayne Boulevard in the 20s. So he had a farmer that was growing things and giving it away to the neighborhood. So I took over that farm for a year, and I was a horrible farmer. I was a failed farmer, but for a year we grew some greens, and it gave me more insight as I did more research out in the Redland area and the Homestead area. So I attempted farming now, but actually in my garden here in Miami Shores, we grow things like Okinawa spinach, which is a great spinach for cholesterol benefits, and then another one called longevity spinach. Someone turned me on to at Fairchild Park, and evidently 10 or 12 leaves a day help keep your insulin levels for diabetes, in check.
Wow.
So there's medicinal things going on with some of the things that grow year round. Like our tomato season is the opposite, obviously, of New Jersey, New York, where you get great tomatoes. Where tomatoes will keep on going here till May. And I think the farmer Lynn that we both know out in Homestead, his name's Tina's, right? Tina's Tomatoes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Robert is here.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the cuisine itself. What is, if you're going to pick one dish, one style of cooking, what is Miami cuisine?
Nobody has yet answered that question.
Yeah. And it's hard. But what's New York cuisine? If you say
New York cuisine changes by the block.
Right.
You're walking on 28th, 29th Street, and you're in Little India. You go down to Chinatown, there's Little Italy. So New York cuisine changes by the block. Let's talk about Miami.
When I moved here, I lamented the fact that all the natives were telling me, we've got a lot of ethnic food here. And by that, they meant we have Honduran and Nicaraguan and Venezuelan, whereas I came from DC, where I'm used to Ethiopian and French and Vietnamese. Now we have all of that too. So you can actually have that variety here these days. But I think Florida food, Dewey, you were a pioneer in this. You and the guys in the Mango Gang who were pioneering the use of tropical ingredients, things you could only get here. And I think that's what defines our food. I teach about wine all over the country. When I go to Chicago and I'm trying to describe the flavor of passion fruit in a Sauvignon Blanc, I get these blank stares. They've never seen a passion. And here we've got them all the time. They're in everything.
Lynn, I'm really glad you mentioned the Mango Gang. I didn't want any of you to forget that, particularly you, Dewey. Back then in the day, we would leave Coral Gables and drive up to your restaurant in Miami Shores or further to Chef Allen's. And of course, when Norman finally opened his place, we were just all gaga over what then you were calling the New World cuisine. Indeed, it was the very beginning, as Sonny referenced, to people bringing mangoes to the table, people bringing in the passion fruits that Lynn just mentioned. It's evolved nicely. The only thing that may be a bit of a setback is that now the New Yorkers are coming down here and opening their version of restaurant. And I kind of bemoan the fact that we don't see Alan Susser and we don't see Norman around much anymore.
Right.
But Dewey, I'm really glad you're here. I did not know you'd moved over to work with Bill and my good friend Elizabeth Silverman. So God bless you for that. I'm glad you're still here.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I'm still here too. So
we all are.
But I mean, the Latin influence on Miami has been obvious. The Creole influence from the Haitian community. Plus, I mean, we have great fish. We have amazing fish here, whether it's pumpkin swordfish, the Key West pink shrimp thing. There's just so much great fish around here that's different from the northeasty kind of a fish. So I think that lends itself to great ceviches, terraditos. I ate at Lamar last week. I haven't been there in a while. Then the next day I went to Sonny's Steakhouse. Two totally different meals, but great packed restaurants. One that's been here for over 10 years, one that's been here for a few months. And they were both doing an outstanding job at both of those restaurants. And you see the influence of Florida on both menus.
Larry, you're right. And I know Sonny gets out to more restaurants than I do. We've had this influx that has continued of restaurants from New York. And I have to say, and this may be controversial, but on the whole, they're not our best restaurants. The ones that have come here from New York to show us how to do it have not shown us anything except how not.
Expand on that. I understand it's totally different. What is it? New York restaurants trying to be Florida, or are they just trying to?
No, they're bringing a sort of I'm thinking of one in particular particular, and I don't want to slam anybody, so I won't mention names, but there's an Italian restaurant that's come down from New York. There have been several steakhouses that came from New York. And on the whole, they've got a very closed mind. So they're sort of thinking, well, these hicks in Florida are going to appreciate the big city. And in fact, we're already a big city. And those restaurants, I think, have not really captured the imagination the way they hope. Would you say that's true, Sunny?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that they're just giving us the same, and they're not really. I think what's great about Miami and Florida and our cuisine is local fare, like the seafood, the stone crabs, the hogfish, things that you can't get other places, all of the tropical fruits and things like that. And I think that they're not incorporating any of that. They're just bringing, what their basic menus here. There's a glut of them. So that's the other issue, is that there's so many New York, California, and then global restaurants. Maybe they're a Michelin star, some in Spain. And so now they're coming here, and everybody wants some, sort of outpost of their place in Miami. And I don't even think Miami can honestly support it, meaning we don't have the concentration of people that you have in Manhattan. So, in a square mile, you have so many more people. People have to drive places. So when all these new places open up, even I'm overwhelmed. I used to be able to tell you everything, and I used to be able to say I've been everywhere, but there's just so many of them, it's difficult to keep up. But each one of them that opens is pretty disappointing. The food, the service. Yeah, I think Miami does really well being itself, and a lot of the places that seem to sustain themselves, places that are more local fare.
Okay,
I think
let's
the
not
ones that
talk about the invasive species of New York restaurants down there, because I can talk about that every day. I'm here to speak to you people because I want to know Miami cuisine. What are the high points? If I'm going down to Miami and I consider myself foodie, what should I be eating? What should I be looking for?
You definitely should be 8th Street, Calle Ocho, and going to Little Havana, and maybe going to Chef Michelle Bernstein's Cafe La Trova, where you're really going to get an incredible experience, that, old Cuba feel of bartenders dressed up, making cocktails for you while you're listening to live music and people just dancing. And she has...
It's Old Havana.
Yeah, it's Old Havana, and it's elevated Cuban cuisine. So you're getting a more elevated version of a lot of the Cuban cuisine that you're used to. So a little bit more finer version. And I think that is one. I mean, Miami has so many aspects to it, but that's one. So if you're wanting to go into really having that Cuban cuisine, then you're going to go to Cafe La Trova, or you're going to go to Versailles on the same street. And Versailles is more casual, but you're likely to run into a politician there, and a lot of people do business there, obviously much more accessible. And you're going to get...
I think what's also worked for us has been, if a restaurant does come in and then takes a great example here, Jose Andres's restaurant. They've come and they've taken advantage of what's available locally. So they've become kind of a local version of something else instead of just replicating. And so we've got some great hole in the wall places like Lung Yai Thai Tapa, they call it. So they're combining, Thai and Spanish in a way. We've got just great restaurants that the locals will go to. And then you've got a layer, I think, that is mainly tourist trade. I don't know. Are any of us going to those restaurants?
I was just thinking of the guy that makes the frita burgers on 8th Street. I mean, he's been there for 50 years, right? And I think, if Escoffier came alive today in Miami, what would he be cooking? He'd be dealing with local fish and farms and things like that. And then you have the casual things that you all both mentioned, which you're spot on. Michelle does an amazing job at La Trova. Didn't she recently open Senor Martinez?
Senora Martinez, she brought back after a 10-year absence. Yeah.
Right. And the guys at Boy a Day, Alex and Lucia and Walrus Rodeo. I mean, I think Miami, you have to still search it out just because of the geography of Miami. And I think the New Yorkers that do come in here, everyone understands that Miami has a superficial feel to it. It always has. That is part of the tourist destination that we are. And I think those New York restaurants do well. And I agree that most of them are not that great. But I also think that they also hit it spot on. I think Major Food Group with Carbone does a really good job of what they do. Smith and Walensky does a great job with their wine program as well. But I think that Miami still has that Miami Vice superficial outlook. I mean, I recently have done a lot of events last week during Ultra and Music Week, and we got to see that type of Miami, of young money Miami, that don't argue about pricing, and they really want what they want, and that's it. And it's about the scene and not the food when it comes to South Beach. I think Coral Gables, Fiola, does a great job, and all the local restaurants there. I mean,
what about Coconut Grove?
The Grove is come alive again. The Grove, I
Yeah.
used to live in the Grove, and it was like a frat party when I lived there. And that's not why I went there, by the way. It has it
Are
like
you
every
sure
neighborhood.
about that?
It had, yeah, Dewey. It
All
has
right.
its ups and downs. But the Grove today is a vibrant place. And you go to Coconut Grove. I remember when I first moved here, the street that divides Coconut Grove from Coral Gables is called Lejeune Avenue. You could cross Lejeune and suddenly the vegetation is different. The soil is different. If we were in the wine world, we'd be talking about different terroir. The Grove is a unique place, and it's where I send visitors all the time. Coral Gables is a much more upscale kind of place, but I think the scene in Coconut Grove these days is awesome. They got a vermouth bar there, not just a wine bar, but it's a vermouth bar. They've got just great examples of many kinds of cuisine and a wonderful vibe that is very much local. You can be a visitor and really feel local when you go to Coconut Grove.
Okay, so I want to play a little. I'm from Mars and I land in Miami. I want you each to describe the perfect Miami plate. And who do I pick first? But Dewey, since you're the chef. What is the perfect Miami plate?
The Miami plate?
The plate,
Okay.
the thing that you want me to know this is Miami. What is that plate you put in front of me?
It has to be one plate. Okay.
It's tough.
Yeah, that's a good one plate.
I have two plates that I'd put
Go
in
ahead,
front of you.
start.
I
I
mean,
would
vodka frita. I mean, a vodka frita. Oh, Barky, sorry.
What is that?
Vodka frita is like a fried, like a beef. It's shredded beef.
It's a it's a little bit like another dish called ropa vieja, which
Yeah,
means
that's what I
old
was
clothes.
just thinking.
It's like a shredded.
Shredded
Sorry,
beef.
I had to let my dog out. I apologize. Yeah, let me see. Vodka. Yeah.
Live
Let the
TV.
dogs out.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. So, Lynn, add to that plate.
There are a couple, but certainly Dewey earlier mentioned a place called Boya Day, which is this awesome surprise because it's in a not fancy neighborhood. It's in a transitional neighborhood, and they don't even have a sign out front. They've got like a neon exclamation point, and that's how you know you're there. An amazing wine list, and none of the bottles has anyone ever heard of before. And the food with Lucci and Alex, the couple that runs it, is innovative. I mean, they'll do a rabbit pappardelle, and you would swear it was a Miami dish. They are using all super fresh ingredients, really marvelous. They've just opened another place across from them called Walrus Rodeo. And these are the unplanned things. And the trouble is with trying to send your friends there is nobody can get in because they're so popular and they've only got about 25 seats. Walrus Rodeo, a little better, but I love that to show people.
And I'm going to say that it's also in a strip mall, so it's super unassuming. You don't expect to go to a Michelin star place in this like sort of seedy looking strip mall. But the thing I'm going to tell you since we're on air is there is a trick to getting in to Boya Day. If you want to go to Boya Day, all of their bar seats, which are the seats you want, you actually don't want to sit at a table because the bar seats are so engaging because you get to watch them finish the plates there. They talk to you. You can talk about the wine with them and what you should pair with it. So you're really engaging with somebody and getting an experience. But the way to go to Boya Day is if you show up maybe 10 or 15 minutes before they actually open. I think they open at 5:30, but don't quote me on that. If you show up 15 minutes before then, they don't reserve out their bar seats. So it's first come, first serve. So when we went there, we just showed up like 15 minutes beforehand and three of us got bar seats and it was the most incredible experience. It felt like a very Miami experience with the dishes and the ingredients and everything like that. But if you were asking me about a Miami dish, I think I'd serve somebody whole fried hogfish, maybe have some sort of like mango salsa with it. And that to me is very Miami. A lot of people have never even heard of it before. It's so delicious. It's light, it's flaky. It's an incredible fish, but it's Florida for sure. And another thing I think you serve people when you come here is you serve them stone crabs because stone crabs, I think that's the epitome of Miami and people have heard of them. Maybe they haven't tried them. I think that that's an expectation that you always should fill when somebody comes to Miami is to take them out for stone crabs.
And we still do them better than anybody else. I've had them in other cities.
I went there by boat once. Was it Joe's? Is that the name of the place? Joe's Stone Crab?
Joe's in South Beach, yeah.
Still the highest grossing restaurant in America.
Yes.
And by the way, Joe's still has on its menu a $9 fried chicken.
Yeah.
Their chicken is awesome, isn't it,
Yeah,
Dewey?
it's so good.
And their
Like,
hash
by the way,
browns.
I've known
But
the
is
owners of Joe's Stone
it
Crab since the
smaller
They're
now?
amazing people. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is it smaller now?
No.
No.
Oh, they're
Oh,
still able to do that.
Joe's has sustained itself throughout the years. It's one of the institution restaurants here that's made it. Not every restaurant has made it, but Joe's has made it. The other thing that they have is what Dewey was saying. They have the sort of, it's not a secret, it's on the menu, but you'll know that you're sitting next to a local when you see the fried chicken on the table and you see the chopped tenderloin. They have 2 chopped tenderloin for, I want to say, $7.95, and they have a half of a fried chicken for $7.95. And you're going to see that on every table because it's just ridiculously inexpensive. And their fried chicken is always, I think, in the top 5 of fried chicken. So you definitely want to go to Joe's and you can order your stone crabs. But if you want to look local, you're going to have the fried chicken on your table. You're going to have the chopped tenderloin on your table.
Okay.
And Chris, you probably know this. If you can't get a seat at Joe's, because they often will get packed, and they're not open all year long in the main restaurant because they don't have stone crabs. There's a season for stone crabs, and it's about to end. In fact, Joe sent me an email the other day saying you've got about 3 weeks to go. But there's an amazing takeout desk there where you can get food to go from Joe's. I think it's what it's called, isn't it? Joe's to go.
It's Joe's Takeaway. And they actually made it into you can actually go in there and sit down and dine in there. They have tables now.
They have a bar in there. You can eat at the bar. Yeah. It's expanded tremendously and very popular. People take their crabs from there just because, like Lynn just said, they're the best stone crabs you can get anywhere. You're going to beat anybody else's. If you find even an outlet of Joe's in Chicago or Tokyo, it's not going to be as good as eating it on South Beach.
Yeah. Oh, there's just something about eating local food locally that it's like the hot dogs at Nathan's in Brooklyn is better than Nathan's hot dogs any place in the world. It's where it belongs. So you're eating food where it belongs in the atmosphere that it's meant to be eaten at. I mean, you can't beat it. So I do have a problem here.
Hold on one sec, Larry. I have a question for the panel. Hold on one second. Okay. What I'm curious about is, given the creativity of the cuisine, what kind of price points are we looking at? With that, where are rents relative to being able to serve this type of creative cuisine? Would love to get the panel's thoughts on that.
Dewey can address that side for sure.
The business of Miami restaurants, I think right now is in not a great condition. The real estate market, if you're a cook or a waiter, you're living 45 minutes to an hour away from proper Miami because you can't afford to live in Miami. So I think a lot of people commute from different areas. And from a restaurant owner standpoint, pricing structure, I think, has gotten pretty abusive, but I think the landlords see an opportunity. And there's a high per square footage rent issue that's going on with a lot of restaurants, especially the Lincoln Road area, which used to be a mecca of really fun restaurants. It's very difficult. Like the anchor chains that are there have come and gone. Even a Mexican restaurant from New York, was it Rosa's Mexicana?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of deep pockets. They couldn't survive their last lease renewal. It just wouldn't work. Joe's Stone Crab, The Forge, and people that own the real estate, even Prime 112, when you think of all of Miles restaurants, they own the real estate. You can't own real estate in New York City as a restaurateur normally if you're in a huge area. There's so much, as Sonny said, so much concentration of clientele right there, where Miami's so spread out. And I think the restaurant scene right now, the New York restaurants that do come down negotiate great deals, where the local mom and pops, Fukia, that's PHUC, by the way, they've been a great restaurant for a long time, but they've had to deal with a lot of things on build outs, and they don't have a large company behind them. So I think you see the large companies coming in because they have more funding. And I think it's difficult when you see price points, especially in the bar, $25, $26 for a cocktail. You have New York prices, but the New York pay structure here for the staff is not in line with the rent structures that keep on popping up. So that's an issue long term, I think.
I think retaining staff has been a significant issue, Fred. So for a restaurant, if you can get a space, to maintain your quality is really tough because the turnover in staff is so high. And I'm not quite sure what's going to happen now because so many of our staff here are immigrants. The restaurant industry depends on this, and the political climate isn't supporting it anymore. We've got issues there we don't need to get into politically. It's going to be a problem.
That in the agriculture too. That's going to probably become a problem.
Who's going to pick the fruit?
Who's going to pick it? Yep.
Yep. Who's going to pick the fruit? Listen, I want to keep going forever, and we can do that on the telephone later on, but time is always our enemy, and the clock is ticking close to where we have to say goodbye. But before we do, I want to go around the room, and I want you all to pick that one little no idea. The thing you want to leave in our head that'll make us want to go dinner in Miami. Lynn, why don't you start?
Well, I'm a wine guy. I'm also a food guy. If you could see the rest of me, you'd see I love food. The thing that I love about Miami is that we do have wonderful food, and it's thanks to people like Dewey that we do. But we've also got a vibrant wine community here. South Florida is the third largest wine market country, partly thanks to the cruise industry, which has a huge impact here, by the way. A lot of our restaurants get staffed by people who are tired of working on shift. Our wine culture is fantastic. And so I think this is, if you're a wine lover, you can have great food, but you can also have really adventuresome wine lists. I would single out a place called Mandolin Aegean Bistro for that. One of the best wine lists I've ever seen. Creative and reasonably priced, so that even though costs are getting crazy, there are things that you can get that are reasonable. And I think wine is one of here. So I would push that as being a hallmark for some of our greatest restaurants.
Okay. Dewey.
If restaurants have the capability, and this is because I'm a corporate chef for a luxury catering company, maybe. I was in the catering field, we get paid ahead of time. During COVID, we did National Guard, Red Cross deliveries to people's homes, where if I was in the restaurant business, we'd be out of business during COVID. So if restaurants have the capability to do catering, another room, whether it's a private dining room or offsite catering, the margins are amazing. And I think it's a good business model to attempt to do catering as long as it doesn't affect your operations at your brick and mortar restaurant. If restaurants have the capability to brand out their catering, even have someone else execute it or whatever it may be, the catering revenue can offset a lot of the costs of a standalone restaurant. That's what I would recommend.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Sonny.
I mean, I agree with Lynn. Miami has an incredible wine community and has these incredible wine lists. I would say also, if you're coming to Miami, Miami's gotten expensive. I think in a lot of ways more expensive than New York. So I would say focus on the happy hours here. We have some incredible happy hours with great wine lists and great pricing. I would say also look to maybe some of the sites like Infatuation. They do such a great job of figuring out what are great Miami places to go to. And you can do that by, Italian food or Cuban food or best restaurant. Some of the places that I think that people that are so Miami are, like, if you're in Coconut Grove, Bouchon du Grove, not the Bouchon that Thomas Keller owns, which is really good too, but Bouchon du Grove, Green Street. These are like Miami institutions that are just great food that have been around forever and still reasonably priced. So you can find that here, but it's harder to find, especially with the influx that's coming in.
The takeaway is, especially for those of us who live here, and Chris, you can chime in, Miami is exciting. It's an exciting place to dine. I can't afford to go out as much as I nearly would like to. It's an exciting place to be.
Back to Fred's question that we had, I was thinking of a couple of locations, real estate wise, that have been fomenting new restaurants all the time. We got a little spot up on Ponce de Leon Boulevard near Calle Ocho that has already started 3 different restaurants. The current one that's there now, Pedro Menendez, who is a Miami boy, went out to wine country in California, cut his teeth at French Laundry and then Single Thread. And now he's back bringing in wine, I would say wine country cuisine with a Miami feel, a little bit of a Japanese touch. It's called Kojin, and where Eating House used to be. And then we've got one of my favorites, a speakeasy type setting, no sign on the door, no way of knowing where it is. It's off a lobby of a big office building in Coral Gables. And it's, again, a little bit of an Asian influence. Pablo Zitzman is doing an amazing job with Zitz Sum. Just an incredible little place. And every time I bring somebody there, they just can't believe it.
Yeah.
It's such a great setting. So these are 2 off the beaten path real estate locations where you can find some wonderful food. And again, regardless of whether they lean towards Japanese or lean towards, any other Asian or California wine country, it's going to be Miami in the end.
Right. All right. Thank you. Fred, why don't you say something?
Just thank you, everybody. Appreciate the amazing overview. Very exciting. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank a few people here. Number one, I want to thank panelists for coming, and the audience, though small, was very, very, very active in our conversations. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank ERA, Expense Reduction Analyst. Listen, you work very, very hard for your money. And if you want to make sure that what you paid for is what you got, if you need some assistance, called ERA, Expense Reduction Analyst. Their people will crawl through your invoices to make sure you got what you paid for. Also, if you're looking to bring a restaurant concept to Miami's most iconic waterfront destination, Bayside Marketplace welcomes 25 million people a year right next to the cruise port, arena, and booming downtown. Your dream location is waiting. Discover more at baysidemarketplace.com. Once again, I always come to educate people, but I always learn a lot from our panels. And I want to thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll be back in 2 weeks, back to our normal Wednesday spot. Well, everyone, happy April Fool's Day.
Thanks, Larry. I'm terribly
Thanks, Larry.
hungry right now, but
Yes,
thank
yes,
you.
Amen.
that's what happens.
Thank you.
Listen,
Thank you, guys.
only
Okay,
for
two
having
care.
us.
things
Thank you,
left to
Sonny.
say.
Amazing.
Thank you,
Thank
Lynn. Thank you,
you.
Dewey.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Two things left to say. Everyone, stay positive, test negative, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Amen.
Thanks, Larry.